Hey guys,
Hey,
what's up, everybody?
Hey, AC, you're right, dude.
How you doing?
Yeah, so sorry about earlier.
Good, man. All good.
yeah, I was adamant. I knew I'd worked out the times right, and then bloody daylight savings.
Why is it still a thing?
I don't know.
Makes no sense. Oh, we want to be a bit brighter later. All right. Oh,
I mean, I know originally it was for farmers or something, but apparently even farmers are kind of like, yeah, well, like I think it was when kids were working on farms, and now we have child labor laws, so they don't really do that. So I think even the farmers were like, yeah, we don't really need to do this anymore. So
yeah, it makes no sense. Let's just throw the time back and forth like once a year for no reason whatsoever anymore. Yeah, to be fair, makes no sense.
totally.
What a way to start a show, eh? Oh,
Wonderful. But yeah, a massive thank you for doing this. This means a lot,
Of course, man.
especially to me. Like I can see that Murderdolls CD behind you, and it's just making me a little bit giddy. I'm not gonna lie.
Awesome.
That's amazing. So what we normally do is I do a little intro, just welcome you to the show, and then we just throw a ton of questions at you.
Cool.
Amazing. Ladies and gents, we have a very special guest today, one that is very close and special to my heart. This man came into my life when I was just a young wee boy at about 16 years old. This man is a guitarist, a bass player, a vocalist, and not only is he a musician, he's also a coffee maker, and from what I hear, a dab at photography as well. Joining us today from Dope, Murderdolls, Acey Slade and the Dark Party, Joan Jett and the Black Hearts, and so many more. He is the only man in history to have spat Pepto-Bismol all over my head when I was a child. The one and only Mr. Acey Slade.
How about that?
Yeah, that was... I'll never get over... It's just a memory that's stuck with me forever.
Was that with Murderdolls or Trash Light Vision?
Murderdolls in Wolverhampton.
Okay. All right. Well, now I've switched it up and changed to windshield wiper fluid. So you got that to look forward to.
what you're gonna have to fill me in. I have no idea what's going on here.
I just, we, I don't know. I've always had weird props on stage, and for a while it was, I would take a gas tank, a petro tank, like a auxiliary one, an extra one, and fill it with water, because obviously I would buy it at AutoZone or whatever, and so no petrol had ever been put in it, so I would just fill it up with water, and I would drink water out of that on stage. And then one time I went to AutoZone, and they had the big jugs of windshield wiper fluid, which is about the same color as blue Gatorade. So went back to the venue, poured out the wiper fluid, washed it out really good, and then poured blue Gatorade in.
That's amazing. And then he spat Pepto-Bismol all over Jamie.
Exactly.
Yeah, I did a similar thing, just spat it all over the crowd and it got in my hair and everything. I was like, what the fuck is this? Because I was like 16. I had no idea what Pepto-Bismol was.
Exactly.
Glorious. And here we go, boys. We're off. AC, man, how has the last year been for you, dude?
It's been hard. Not as hard for me as perhaps it's been for other people. So I don't really like to complain too much. But the good thing is we got Catfight Coffee, my coffee company. We got that off the ground and up and running. I started doing a Patreon, which I was never really too into before, but now that I'm doing them, I love it. I really enjoy it. So, the pluses out of it are that my coffee company's doing great. My wife and I love it, and we have that. And then, starting the Patreon, I can't wait to do that when there's actually more things going on. That's going to be a lot of fun. So, those are the good points to it. I've been working on little things here or there, but I don't know. Everybody had different experiences, and honestly, it hasn't been until the past probably month that I realized how fucking depressed I was through this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bless you, dude. I'm so sorry to hear that. It's fucking shit. I mean, I think because does the weather have a massive effect? Because obviously when the first lockdown happened, I don't know what it was like in America, but over here, the first lockdown was obviously when the sun was out, everyone got in the gardens or got into parks and stuff, and everyone could exercise, and the sun just lifts moods no matter what. But I think this time around, it's been really shit because obviously the weather's been fucking terrible and it's been freezing cold.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
no,
I think it was, feeling the sun on your face and on your arms. And I mean, yeah, granted, I'm a vampire or whatever, but still, just being able to go out in the fresh air and experience the sun. And even if you're not standing directly in the sun, but being in a park, I didn't realize how much I need that. Just even if it's only like, once every 2 weeks, or just even that you take for granted the times where, I think you just kind of take for granted the times that you're just like walking around, even at nighttime, let's just say, out in the fresh air is just like a whole year of like no fresh air,
It's been a fucking wonky ass year, dude. But did you like learn other than your coffee company? Obviously, did you do anything brand new yourself? Like, did you learn a skill or learn a language in any way at all?
No, dude. It was all putting the coffee company together and binge watching TV shows. I hate to admit it because I'm not even that kind of guy. Like I barely ever watch TV, and a lot of times I'm very unaware of what's going on in pop culture. But I binge watched Netflix and buried my head in the company, and that's about it,
And completed Netflix.
Yeah, basically. I feel like I did. I really feel like I did.
So take us all the way back before you even picked up an instrument. Where did a love for this genre of music, rock and metal, come from for you?
Oh, that's I mean, that's easy. That goes back to, I think there's two pivotal moments. One was, being a disconnected kind of kid, overweight, not feeling like I fit in like most kids, and seeing my sister and her friend holding a copy of Cheap Trick's Dream Police. My sister actually had a really good record collection. And I was, just feeling bad about myself. And then hearing my sister and her friend talk about how cute the guys were. And my mom walked past and she said, my mom goes, "Those guys aren't even very handsome. You just like them because they have long hair and they're in a band." And I was like, ah. So there's that. And then, I was in the church choir as a kid. I was in this church play, and they had this play where they had like there's the Stations of the Cross, and there's this one scene where they reenact the crucifixion, and they had like fake blood and stuff. And I was like, that's awesome. That's cool. And then I saw Alice Cooper a couple weeks after that, and he had his guillotine and he had all that. And I was like, that's awesome too. And so the theatrics have always played a big part in music to me. I've always, if you want to get people's attention, I don't think you do it just by standing there sounding good. You've got to present something for them to see as well. You don't go listen to a concert, you go see a concert. So yeah.
Couldn't agree further with that. My favorite band in the world is Kiss, so it says a lot for how much I agree with you with that one.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
That's amazing. So what was your first band? The earliest band I found of yours was Vampire Love Dolls, but was that your first band, or was there like high school bands and stuff like that? Yeah,
there was like high school bands, but nothing that really did much. But Vampire Love Dolls was kind of like the first sort of real band. And that was with Christian Martucci, who's now in Stone Sour, by the way.
Oh, that's awesome! I didn't realize that.
Damn.
Yeah, not a lot of people do, but he and I were very good friends, and still are good friends actually. He and I were good friends back then, So I'm so proud of him that he's accomplished what he's accomplished. Plays with Corey Taylor's solo band now, and we actually worked on. You can find it on iTunes and Spotify, but I played on one of his songs on his the last solo EP he put out as well. So,
oh, that's awesome.
That's incredible.
So obviously with Vampire Love Dolls, you were just a vocalist, weren't you?
No, what happened was Christian was they were a 3-piece. They needed another guitar player. I was a singer guitar player. And so I came in and Christian and I shared vocal duties. And then he ended up leaving the band. And then I became the only singer.
Ah, okay.
But you know, in where I grew up in Pennsylvania and where the band was based, there wasn't a big music scene. So like when a bass player would leave or we'd fire a bass player, I'd start playing bass and singing. And then I'd switch back and forth to guitar or bass or, you know, whatever we needed to keep the band going, really.
That's awesome.
What led you to guitar then? What made you go 6 strings? I think I'm going to fucking play that.
I wanted to write songs. That was it more than seeing like, you know, Steve Vai or Joe Satriani or one of these guys and saying, yeah, I want to be the best guitar player in the world. That was never part of the agenda. It was more that I wanted to write songs.
No, that's fair enough, dude.
Fair.
Yeah. Did you, before music though, did you have anything else in mind that you were going to do, or has music always been the way you were going to go?
Pretty much. Yeah, I mean, as long as I can remember, it was always music, or I was in some plays as a kid, so theater type stuff, but yeah.
That's awesome. And the fact you've stuck with it and done it and succeeded, that's really fucking cool, because not many people get to live out their childhood dream.
Well, but that's why, you know, it's like you stick with it. It's funny. I think that, you know, people's perception of my career is very much like this, you know, that's not the truth, man. It's like this. I mean, dude, I mean, yeah, yeah, I've played Madison Square Garden with the Misfits, but you know, probably a year or two before that, I was playing Yardbirds in Grimsby, you know, so you know, and that's the truth, you know, I mean, but that's just it, man. You got to hang on, you know, it's like surfing, I guess, not that I've ever surfed, but it's like, you got to keep waiting for the waves, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're a man of many, many, many bands. You know, Joan Jett, the Black Hearts, Vampire Love Dolls, Murderdolls, Dope. You even filled in for Amen for a tour in Japan as well.
Yeah, and the US tour too.
And so, sorry?
And the US tour. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Like, so how come you've moved around from bands so much? Is just you're being poached by people, or like, we need AC in here, or we need AC over here, and we want to play this over here now? Like, how's that?
I'll be honest with you. I wish that my career was the type of thing where I was in one band and just stayed with it, you know. But you know, when I started playing in the Murderdolls, you have to remember one thing. I guess not a lot of people know. When Joey had approached me about playing in the Murderdolls for a long time while I was in Dope, and the timing just never worked out until the album was about to come out and until a tour was in place. Because before that, Slipknot was just such a massive band. It was like, well, yeah, I could fly to Iowa and do a show or two, but what's really the point of that? Yeah. I was focused on Dope because that was my band, and we were writing songs for a second record and all that. And we put out the second record and it kind of bombed, which has nothing to do with the band. You know, that was just how it worked out. And that's when Joey called me up and said, hey, you know, do you want to do this Murderdolls thing? All we're doing, and this is what not a lot of people know, but at that time it was, you know, we're going to do a 3-week European UK tour. We're going to do a 2-week US run and these shows in Japan. And then that's it. That was all that was planned. So I wasn't planning on quitting Dope. Like, it was like, yeah, I'm going to go do this. And then we'll see where we're at. And that's not the way it worked out, man. It ended up blowing up over in the UK and in Europe and in Japan. The tour did so well that the band was there. And So that situation kind of, I didn't like quit one for the other. It's just one took a priority, you know?
Okay.
Yeah. And then by the time I got done, Dope had found somebody else. So the Amen thing just sort of fell into my lap. We had the same management, and Rich Jones ended up not, wanting to do the tours that they had booked. So I got booked for that. And so, yeah, it's, and even with Joan, it's, it's funny. I would have been okay playing with Joan for the rest of my life, but it didn't necessarily work out that way. I'd be okay playing with, these guys forever, but we're doing 5 shows a year, so it just kind of works out that way,
Just a man in demand. That's what you are. A man in demand.
Like I said, I mean, I would love it if one of these bands that I played in just stayed at a solid space, and to be like, because trust me, I gotta fucking figure out new songs all the time, and get new gear all the time, and double and triple of stuff. It's a luxury problem to have. Don't get me wrong, but still, it's like sometimes when I look at guys that have one gig and they're in one band, and it's like, you don't got to figure out a whole set list in 2 weeks,
Yeah, this back cat is safe. I need to learn all of it. What? You've got a week. Fuck off.
With Amen, I had days. Like it was like, and Casey, he's so out there. He was like, we'll just learn all of our songs in like 4 days. It was like, I can't. You are out of your mind. So I called up Piggy, and I'm like, dude, what are the songs you guys are actually playing? Like let me know.
That's mental. It doesn't surprise me at all, though, from what you hear about Casey Chaos. So it doesn't surprise me at all. So going back to Dope, you're saying the second album wasn't a big, but I remember the first album being huge.
Yeah,
like it was really crazy. How did that get picked up and go get so big off that first album? Was it a certain song or?
That's more people's perception. So, we were in a really great position where we had a very unique record deal where we were signed to a joint venture deal which never happens. But we did, which basically means that Interscope Records, who was part of Universal, and Sony, we were on Epic, and Sony had to match each other dollar for dollar. So the money that was every time Interscope spent $10,000, Sony had to spend $10,000. So the promotion that was done on that record was like the equivalent to like a Mariah Carey record. Now, obviously, we didn't sell Mariah Carey type numbers, which to me, like in hindsight, I'm like, the fuck were you guys thinking? Like, why would you spend that much money on a band that's single is called Everything Sucks? It's not called like, Popsicles and Rainbows.
I bet that would have been a banger as well, though. Let's be honest.
Exactly.
But what I love about that first album, and as I've got here, I need to ask this question, and this isn't a dig at all because it's a great song.
Sure.
The fuck the Police cover? Why? It's such a random song to cover for a metal band.
I'm so glad we don't do it now. the last tour we did, it was so funny. Etzel's like the set list doesn't change a ton through the years, but Etzel's like, he just like offhandedly was like, think about dropping "Fuck the Police," and like everybody at the same time just went, yes.
Whose idea was that?
Well, I mean, you got to put it in context, though. So to be fair, Dope wasn't a rap rock band, but, we were signed to Flip Records, which was part of the whole Limp Bizkit thing. Fred Durst was a part of that. And you do have to remember, too, that the band was started by Etzel and Simon, and they were selling drugs to finance the band when the band started. So, so the whole, which is exactly what the gangster rap bands were doing back in the day. That's how they financed their demos, selling drugs. So Dope was doing the exact same thing, and that was the reason for that cover. There was a bit of solidarity there, and also knowing that there were, it might help us career-wise a little bit. Although it got really weird because I forgot about this. We did shows where police are like, you can't play that song tonight. Literally, they're like, you can't play that song tonight. And it depended on how they approached it with us. If they kind of talked to us like, hey man, like, we're cool with you guys. We're here to make sure nobody gets hurt. Can you please not play the song? We'd be like, yeah, all right, like I can get that. And then if it was like, if they came in strong about it and throwing their dicks around, we're like, well, fuck you, we're playing it.
First and all night.
Yeah. On loop, on repeat.
Yeah. But talking of covers, just quickly, that White Wedding cover, Murderdolls, is just incredible. Incredible. I love that when Billy Joel released it.
Billy Idol.
Billy Idol. It's Billy. I was going to say Billy Idol. Where's Billy Joel? Where's Billy Joel come from? Who's that?
Piano Man.
It's a Piano Man, yeah.
I was going to say, I doubted myself. That's what happened. I was going to say Billy Idol. I was like, that's Billy Joel. That's Billy Idol. No, fuck it. I'm going with that one. Bollocks, I got it wrong. But seriously, when I was a child, my dad used to play that on repeat all the time. And I fucking love that song. And to hear it done like metal, it was just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
I met Billy about 2 years ago. He was at a show that we were doing, and he was live streaming the show from side stage. And it was a show where all cell phones were banned, and we're playing, and I'm playing, and I look over, and I'm like, "The fuck is that guy live? He's not supposed to be doing that. You know, it's not my band." So I'm kind of like, well, whatever. But I'm like, that's not supposed to be doing that. So I go back and I tell one of the PAs, one of the personal assistants, I'm like, hey, there's somebody over there live streaming. And like, dude, take a look. And I look, and it's Billy Idol. And I'm like, all right, I'm not going to tell Billy Idol. Yeah. So after the show, I spoke to him. I'm like, hey, just so you know, I'm like, I play in the Murderdolls, and we did that white wedding cover. He's like, oh, thanks, mate. And I'm like, yeah, I figure, you know, we probably paid for a couple tires on your Lamborghini. We probably didn't buy a brand new one. He's like, you might have even bought me all four, mate. Thank you.
That's amazing. So you mentioned like you going into the Murderdolls, but you weren't with the band when they first started. Obviously, Tripp was in the band.
Well, I got him into the band.
Okay.
Indirect. So what happened was Joey originally spoke to me about being in the band with Dizzy Drastic when it was the Rejects. And like I said, we were writing that second Dope record, and I had a lot of songs on the album. Tripp didn't. And Joey's like, hey, do you want to, you know, be a part of this? And I was like, I feel like it's in my best interest to stay where I'm at, to make sure that my songs get on the record. And Tripp isn't really a songwriter, so he didn't really have as much interest in it. So I was like, well, how about you guys, you know, sort of try and see it work. So yeah.
So obviously they recorded the original. Wasn't it just Joey and Wednesday that recorded the original album? They did all of it together, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I must have seen Murderdolls like 7 times, if not more. I've met you 3 times, obviously, but I was a lot younger. You don't remember me, but so it felt like you perfect fit in that band, and it always looked so much fun. I was always gutted we never got a second album from that original lineup. What caused it to go away?
You know, I don't really know, but I mean, I do know that was right around the time I started working with Joan Jett. And so it really kind of worked out for me. But I don't know. I mean, if I were to guess, and this is just me guessing, I think that Joey, you know, he wanted, and again, this is just my guess, but I think that Joey saw Corey doing Stone Sour and being the focus of Stone Sour. Even though it was called Stone Sour, it kind of could have just been called Corey Taylor for all intents and purposes. And I think that Joey, I don't think that he thought that the Murderdolls would become the band that it became. You know what I mean? Like we were a circus. It's like
it
you
was
had
huge.
Ben Gray. Yeah. But I mean, as far as the characters in the band, you had Ben, who is like 6'6", fucking anorexic and like just crazy looking. And then you had Eric, who looked like Nikki Sixx, and it became, it became less about Joey and more about the band. And I think that he wanted to simplify things and just make it his thing.
Oh, okay. Because like I say, it was a phenomenon. Like, you were so huge. That's why it always baffled me there was no second album.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I'm actually working on a book right now that kind of captures a lot of that. Ooh. And so that is the thing that I feel like makes for a very interesting story. You're right. It was like the band wasn't supposed to happen. And then all of a sudden, in spite of itself, it happened. And it seemed like the dumber shit we did, the crazier things got, the more momentum the whole thing gained, and we never expected it to become as popular as it became. And in fact, at one point, even our label was like, yeah, we don't think this thing is really going to take off. There's not really a market for it. We're not going to really spend any money on it. And to Joey's credit, he threw around his weight that he had from Slipknot and was like, no, like I want to do this. Like, let's make this happen. Let's push this for a little bit. And it seemed like the more pushback Joey got, the more invested he became in it. And just within the band, it was like the more pushback we got from people around us, the more we pushed even harder back. So
it was always weird to me how like members were in different bands, because obviously back then I was quite young. So seeing Joey and Murderdolls and like Corey and Stone Sour and stuff like that, they're Slipknot. How are they managing to do that as well? Because I know like the Blink-182 boys did it as well, where they split up and started doing other bands. I'm just going, what is going on? I thought that if you were in a band, that was it. You're either in that or you're in that one. It's like there was you couldn't do both sort of thing. Just something I noticed. That's all.
But you were saying about the crazy days of the Murderdolls. Like, didn't you get kicked off a tour of Iron Maiden for being?
Oh
yeah. I just remember that as I was talking then.
Yeah. That was a pretty crazy night. We just I mean, yeah, I think that, the thing that made that band unique, I don't know if we could do that type of band now. I mean, it was everything that a crazy, stupid rock and roll band is supposed to be. And I mean, I feel kind of, maybe it's pretentious of me to say this, but I feel like we were the last of those types of bands in a way, And so, yeah, I mean, we got thrown off the Maiden tour, fights with Danny Filth, and all those things. I mean,
he probably deserved it. Let's be honest.
He did.
I think I remember hearing about it. Wasn't that like the Metal Hammer Awards or something?
Yeah.
I was at that event. I remember that. I remember hearing about that. That's amazing.
That's
so
insane.
But before we come on to this, me and Tom were talking about stuff like, and we were talking about Dawsons Creek. And the Murderdolls were on that. We're like, how does that even happen? But
I don't, that's actually a really good question, because we didn't really, that's usually something a band that has like some juice, if you know what I mean, like has something going on, does. And at the time that we did that, we didn't have any, we didn't really have anything going on at the time. So, and our manager, the only band that he managed was us. So that's a good question. I'm not exactly sure how that happened, but it did,
Yeah, it's like it's a teenage heartthrob TV series. What do we need? We need the Murderdolls, guys. That's what we need. We need the Murderdolls to play.
And I mean, we, I mean, I guess it was the Halloween episode.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That you're right though. That's a good question. We shouldn't have been there, but that was we kind of had a knack for finding ourselves in places we weren't supposed to be. So.
Still to this day, the only episode of Dawsons Creek I've ever watched. That's how big of a fan I was. I was like, Murderdolls on it. I'm going to watch that one. So, was it straight after Murderdolls that Trash Light Vision happened?
Yes, that's correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that album is wonderful. It's so good. I was listening to it earlier. I haven't listened to it in years, and it's so good. So, was there plans to do more than just that one album?
Yeah, we it's such a bummer. We did everything that we did with that band. We did ourselves. Everything was very DIY, and the first record did okay. But the second record, it was a really weird time in the music industry. Nobody knew what was happening as far as downloading and how to make how can this business make money? And I mean that in the business sense of like a business has to have money in it. It has to have gas in the tank. I don't mean that like in a how can we afford our Ferraris and shit like that. It's more like how can we fund touring? How can we fund this? There was talks of bands signing really bad deals back then, which were called 360 deals, where the record company put your record out, but then they took your touring money and they took your publishing and they took your merchandising. They took everything at that time. And there was a lot of bands signing those deals. And we did our first record. We were demoing our second record, and one record company went out of business. So we were licensing the record in different territories, which was a strategy at the time. In hindsight, it probably wasn't the best idea, but it was a strategy that people were trying. So you would license the record to a record company in the US, one in Europe, one in Asia. That was the strategy that we had. But the problem with that was that when one record company went out of business, it then meant that we were a third short of what we needed to complete the goal of recording the record and everything. And the other thing too, man, that band worked so hard. And even the people that were, working with us, like they didn't really do as much for us as they could have. Like every time we went on tour, it was the day before we'd leave to go, it was a trip to the pawn shop to put stuff in the pawn shop so that we'd have money to finance the tour. And we get home and we go and get the stuff out of pawn shops, stuff like that. And we did that for 3 years. And so it was one of those things where the light at the end of the tunnel was going to be that second record. And when that light went out, everybody kind of scattered, unfortunately.
It is a shame because it's such a good album.
Thank you. It's funny because one of the ideas I kick around, I guess I'm at a place now where after doing this for 20 years, I have a lot of assets, so to speak. And one of the, it's like, I kind of try to think about like, well, what do I want to do? Like what I still write my own stuff kind of, but there was supposed to be a second Trash Light Vision record. Should I maybe like record that stuff, or should I maybe record one of those records that's like a career spanning thing where it's a rework of everything? Maybe I should do an acoustic record. I don't know. Like I get a little overwhelmed sometimes with all the opportunities of things to do,
I imagine you're one of those people that's just got so many songs written, ready, demos just sat there, just waiting for something to do with them.
Believe it or not lately. You know what I have a tendency to do? I guess I put a lot to the side. You know what I mean? Like you always like to write more than you need. But the thing is that I never look back. So it's like, I'm not like going back and digging through old ideas. I've just constantly got new ones coming in. So I always feel like I don't have a surplus of ideas, but that's not the reality. You're right. I've always got a ton I could look back at, but I'm always more interested in creating from scratch.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you go back to them and go, oh, that's shit now? Nope, don't like that anymore. I should have changed that. I'll change this around. There's all that sort of thing.
Yeah, everything I go back and re-listen to, I hate. So.
How fun or not fun are music videos to make? Did you enjoy them, or you're not a fan?
Music videos?
Yeah.
Yeah, the only one that I've done that was fun was the White Wedding one.
Which is a glorious video.
Yeah, it's a great video.
I use that out of all the processes in music. That one I like the least because it's like you got to put for like 30 seconds. You got to put on like you're putting on a show, and you got to give it your all. And then all of a sudden, for some reason, unbeknownst to yourself, they go, okay, cut. And nobody claps and nobody says anything. Like, well, what was that all about? And they're like, well, we got enough for that shot. I'm like, all right. It's not until you see the final product that you're like, cool, all right, yeah, that's it.
I can imagine that's quite weird, actually. But just like you're so used to playing in front of like people and stuff, and then you're like, done, and then just nothing.
Yes,
it's so surreal.
And it's really, really long days because they pack as much into one location in one day as they can. So yeah, that's my least favorite part to be in the process of, but I still love seeing them in the end.
I think that's mental for something that's 3 or 4 minutes long every time. It's just crazy to think it takes like a day or two, or even longer than that.
Yeah, but it's awesome how inexpensive they've become. Like, that's really the cool part. I mean, I think when we did that Dope Everything Sucks video, I think that the budget for that was like $200,000 or something. And then I think White Wedding was like, I don't know, $30,000 or $40,000 maybe. I might be wrong about that, but that's what videos cost back then. Like a $30,000 video back then was like a cheap video.
That's mental.
That is mental.
My God. So it's like you were saying earlier, it's crazy. You were saying your career's gone up and down, but you've constantly been busy.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. And obviously, you've released more solo music as well with the Dark Party, which again, I was listening to earlier. I haven't listened to that in quite some time. I absolutely love She Brings Down the Moon. It's such a good song. So it's a very different sound, though, to other stuff you've done. What was it? Was this like your experimental album? You wanted to try something new?
Yeah, totally. I actually had started working on that at the tail end of Trashlight Vision. Basically, I just had a friend of mine. It was a friend of a friend. There was a really accomplished drum and bass producer named Sean Morris, and he was from the UK, and he was in New York, and he was like, and I've always had that side of me that liked stuff like Uncle or DJ Shadow, and like I liked a lot of down tempo electronica and industrial, obviously, and goth stuff like that. And so he and I were just tinkering about, and so when Trashlight Vision came to an end, it just seemed like, well, let me put this out there. And then the guitar player that played on it was my friend Andy, and he was so good that I was like, well, I got a guitar player now, so I might as well, do a couple shows, So it wasn't like an intentional like planting of the flag, like this is my new project. It was more like, well, let's float this out there and see what happens. There's some good stuff on that record. There's some stuff on it I don't like, but yeah, She Brings Down the Moon is really good.
It's a really good song, and I thought you were very brave of that album as well, because you covered a song that it's generally known people shouldn't cover this song. It's a sacred song in the world of rock. Like in your cover of She Sells Sanctuary. I say you can't say that bloody name. She Sells Sanctuary. There we go. But it's so good. It's a really good cover of it, and it's But fair play. I always felt you were really brave for doing that.
Thank you. I don't know. It's funny. I was just reading a review of a Dark Party show, and from a long time ago, and obviously, and the person doing the review said the same thing. So that was really nice, But I think that the best compliment though had to be I've met Ian Astbury a couple times over the years, and one night I was reintroduced to him. He hadn't remembered we'd met before, which is totally okay. But I was reintroduced, and I was just like dressed normal. And my friend's like, "Oh, this is my friend Acey," and he comes out and he looks up at me. He's a little short. He looks up and, "Whoa, dude, you look like a vampire." And I was like, "Dude, that Ian Astbury just told me I look like a vampire, and I'm not even dressed up right now." I'm like, that is the best compliment I can take to my grave.
That's amazing. So obviously you've done a bunch of touring with bands as well, you know, not just like the bands you've done, like we mentioned earlier, Tom mentioned Amen and stuff like that, but obviously you joined back with Wednesday for a tour as well, didn't you?
Yeah. That was on his Skeletor tour. Mm-hmm.
Just such a good album as well. Fair play.
Yeah, it is.
It's a cracking album. That must have been so much fun to like a little mini reunion sort of, because wasn't Eric on that tour as well?
No, it
was that the other tour?
It was Jason Trioxin, Nate Manor, and Johnny Chops.
Okay. Because I know Eric rejoined him for a tour as well. I wasn't sure if it was the same one.
That was right before. Mm-hmm.
Do you miss gigs, shows, playing at the moment live?
So bad.
I bet it's killing you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not that I meant to bring it up. I'm so sorry to bring it up. You know, do you remember when you used to do that thing you love doing?
No, I mean, you know, we're starting to get the whispers of things happening for the end of summer and fall. So I'm hoping that's going to happen. You know,
everything's crossed for you, man. Everything.
Yeah, and even now it's like there's talks of stuff for 2022, and it's like you're fucking kidding me, man. It's only 2021, you know. Well, you know.
At least they're being proactive, I guess.
What's that?
At least they're being proactive, I guess.
Yeah.
But obviously, as well, touring is you reunited with Dope when you did the reunion tours with that, along with Static X. How was that? That must have been really good fun to get back with that like first band you made it with.
Oh, that was cool. That was really fun. You know, the first thing we did was we went to I think the first thing we did was going to Russia, which oddly I'd never played Russia before, which was amazing. I'm not exactly sure why, but it was one of those things where somehow or another, Dope has a pretty big following in Russia that we kind of never knew about. And they're young, and it was crazy. Like we showed up at this show and there's all these young kids waiting outside, and we're like, well, what band are they waiting for? Like, we're a bunch of old guys here, you know, and they were there for us. And so that was awesome. It was great to have that experience going over to Russia and the Ukraine. And then, it was cool. Very cool.
What's Russia like? Because obviously they're a very private country.
Yeah, I love it there. I love it. You know, it's they are private, but I feel like I don't know. They're I guess they're also kind of mysterious in that, you know, they're very big on arts from what I can tell. This is just my observation. I mean, it seems like they're very big on the arts, yet at the same time, it's like they're not really big on people walking around looking weird like we do. And I find that kind of interesting. But the fans are great. It doesn't seem like they and this is similar. The UK is this way a little bit too. It's more in America where you find that there's an age bracket for music. You know what I mean? Where it's like kids that are in their 20s probably don't listen to Dope or the Murderdolls. Some do, you know. Whereas I feel like in other countries, people are like, well, what's it matter when it came out or how old the players are or anything like that. Other places are a bit more, you listen to it and you like it, you know. I mean, I've kind of always felt that way, that like, you know, if it's got a loud guitar in it and it's got some, you know, piss and vinegar in it, doesn't matter what year it came out. You know?
That's so true though. I've never thought of it that way actually.
Yeah.
Looks like most of the bands I listen to are from way before my years. So I get that completely. But good music is good music at the end of the day, regardless of when it comes out.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the first time going to download, and this is like a good example. Like you'd see kids with a jacket with patches on it, and they would have Green Day and Slipknot and Slayer, and like in the States, it's like no, like you only like thrash metal, and if you only like thrash metal, you probably don't like Slipknot because they're way too popular, you know, and dumb shit like that. You know? I think I'm changing a bit, you know.
I've never got that mentality, but it is over here as well. I've known plenty of people like that, but I've never got it.
Yeah,
it's crazy because I never really think like, you know, someone loves Green Day. It's like, well, you obviously love Green Day, you obviously love Blink-182, but you can't like Slipknot, and you can't like Slayer, and you can't like Korn because you like punk. You're obviously that's my because I listen to metal, rock, but that's to country, which is like the complete other fucking end of the scale. And I like some dance music as well. What's going on? What's the matter with me? Eh?
But the main big touring gig of yours, we touched on it earlier. I remember when I saw this on your social media because I was so fucking happy for you because it's such a big deal. Is you got to play with Joan Jett, which is just awesome. Yeah. So how did that come about?
Honestly, I would say for 90% of the stuff that I do or that I've done, I feel like I never like when people say that I'm lucky, because I feel like I've created a lot of my opportunities and I've worked really lucky is walking down the street and finding a $20 bill, right? That didn't happen to like that's not the way that it is. I mean, the sacrifices that I've had to make to do the things that I've done are pretty great. So I don't like that word lucky. However, with Joan, it was one of those things where the drummer's wife knew that they were looking for a bass player. I wasn't trying to get in the Black Hearts. I wasn't trying to get in the band or anything like that. I just got a random phone call from her saying, hey, learn 3 or 4 songs. If you nail it by Wednesday, you're going to Australia with Joan next week. So that really fell out of the sky into my lap.
That's amazing.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I was expecting to be a case of, they were touring. I thought, I got nothing else on. Let's audition. But no, just want to go on tour. Okay, sorted.
I was very lucky for that. Mm-hmm. Because the other thing too is that when you're as big as Joan, like Joan doesn't give a fuck about Dope and the Murderdolls. Do you know what I mean? Like when you're that big, like you're standing shoulder to shoulder with maybe not the Rolling Stones, but you know what I'm saying? Like you're standing shoulder to shoulder with the biggest names in rock music.
Oh yeah.
And so all those bands that I played in, that didn't mean anything to them. They were like, so what's that got to do with it? Like, unless your last name is Grohl, it doesn't matter,
Were you a big fan of like the Black Hearts, Joan Jett growing up? Or?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, I figured because it's that punky sound what you seem to clearly be into. That's why I was saying, I was like, this must just be incredible for him. Because like you're saying, she's got to be the biggest female name in rock, surely.
Sure, yeah.
I struggle to think of another one.
Yeah, and it's funny because people say to Joan, like, aren't you proud of everything you've done for women in rock music? And Joan sometimes will deadpan that and say, like, but what have I done? Because if I'm still the biggest, what's really changed, And she's right about that in a lot of ways,
Yeah, I've never thought of that. That's very true. Also, you touched on Madison Square Garden as well. That that is huge.
Mm-hmm.
You've played so many massive. Can you remember the first time you walked out to a big fucking crowd?
Yeah, that was probably with first one that comes to mind is with Dope. We played this festival, and it was a small arena, so it was like, I don't even know what this arena was used for, because it was like, when I say it was a small arena, it was clearly used for hockey or basketball or something like that. But capacity was probably like 8,000, and so it was, but it was like this indoor music festival on the Fear Factory Static X tour that we did. And that was the first one I remember. And the thing that I remembered being really weird is that how disconnected from the audience you really are. You know what I mean? Like now all of a sudden, at that point, every show I played, people could stage dive, people could jump off, people were right in your face. If you played a bad note, that 100 people that's standing right there all heard it. You know what I mean? And so that's why those shows are so important. That's how you cut your teeth. That's how you you get your gumption, you know? And I remember doing that show and being like, I almost felt like did they really hear the show? Like it just, the interaction between the crowd was more disconnected than I was used to. So yeah, that was kind of weird.
Was it? Did you sort of have that feeling as like, are all these people here to hear me and my band? That's really fucking crazy. Was it like a nervous feeling?
I mean, we were first on the bill, first or second on the bill. So I was still pretty aware that like they're not here to see me. And even with Joan, it's like, you know, playing with Joan, they're not there to see me. They're there to see Joan, you know. So, and there's, you know, it takes the pressure off of you a little bit, you know.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. You know, imagine that does, if you keep yourself leveled, you know, it does take the nerves off.
Sure. And the thing
pressure.
is, you gotta remember is that like when I'm a side guy, my job is to create something for whoever the primary members of the band are, so that they feel comfortable enough that they can cut loose. So I kind of can't afford to make it about me, and I can't really afford to get like amped up in that way. Like I got to look at it more like, okay, am I hearing the drummer? Is everything cool? Like I really have to think of it as almost like directing a play or something. I don't know, yeah, I have to be a foundation for others so that they can really get off. If that makes any sense.
That's really cool. That's a really cool way of looking at it. I like that. So what other music projects are you working on at the minute, or have you got coming up, I should say?
Dude, I'm working on a million that I can't talk about. It's driving me fucking nuts.
Oh, that's no fun.
Drive me insane.
We deserve an exclusive. I'm joking.
Can't talk about any of them. God damn it.
That's fair enough, dude. Okay, we'll do this instead.
Not until shows are start being announced. So I'm working on a ton of stuff. It's so frustrating because like everybody has different strategies right now for music. And, you know, so for example, Dope, the strategy that Dope has is to take off all of 2021, right? Let everybody else go out, let the crowds, like even if everybody comes rushing back in, that's not an accurate representation of things returning to normal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's a spike. And you know, the type of music that we all love is kind of an underground thing. And so the concern that some people have with some of these bands is that it's like, okay, well, if you're local, where are you guys based out of? What town are you guys in?
I'm in Birmingham, England.
I'm in Cardiff, Wales.
Oh, okay. So I mean, I'm trying to think, like, you guys know Nottingham Rock City?
Yes.
Yeah. Been there many times.
Okay, so like if Nottingham Rock City usually has 2 or 3 metal shows a week, which is a lot. Well, once everything returns to normal, they're gonna have like 6 a week. Yeah. And now that means everybody's got to decide, like, well, what am I going to do with my money? Which shows am I going to see? So if your band can normally bring in 1,000 people, maybe now all of a sudden you're bringing in 500, which means next year or 2 years from now, when everything returns to normal, Nottingham Rock City, bad example, because I don't know this about them. They're awesome dudes, but the venue can go, well, you guys used to bring 1,000 people, but last time you were here, you only brought 500. So now we got to pay. Now we're going to pay you less. So that's one theory that people have, is that you can kind of, you know, our music, some of these bands might kind of cannibalize each other by going out too soon, if that makes any sense. And then other people are like, let's be the first ones out of the gate. Let's be the first ones to really go for it. And unfortunately, until we know exactly what's going on, can't really talk about anything.
No, that's fair enough, dude. So I'll take a quick left turn. Why? So obviously you've got your own coffee company, as you mentioned right at the beginning of the episode of the show. Why did you call it Catfight? Just out of curiosity.
I wish I had like a really good reason for it, but basically my wife and I were driving down the road, and we were trying to come up with a name, and it was everything. Like I was thinking about song titles, like, I don't know, I was like, you know, should we call it like, you know, Out Come the Wolves coffee, or should we call it Teenagers from Mars coffee, or like, and my wife's like, yeah, but but then and just none of it seemed right. And my wife just broke it down. She's like, all right, let's just think of words. She's like, what animals do you like? And I'm like, well, snakes, dragons, bats, cats, and then it was like, well, like, but then, all right, do we want it to sound aggressive? Yeah, cat fight. And we're both cat lovers. And so it can be a very playful name. It can be kind of an aggressive name. It can be kind of serious or fun. I've had people think it's a band name. So, that's how it came out,
Beautiful.
That's awesome. So as we're talking about the coffee, where did this idea come from? What made you go, I'm going to make coffee?
Well, when I was touring with Joan, do you guys have the app Yelp over there in the UK?
We don't, but we know of it thanks to South Park.
So Yelp is an app that you use to find coffee places or restaurants close by. They do delivery, and you can leave reviews, etc. And when I started playing with Joan, I was playing a lot of bee markets, and I didn't really know the places, and so I would go on Yelp, and I came to find that the places that had the good coffee shops had like the good record stores, had the good, vintage clothing stores, like all the culture that we love is oftentimes where the good coffee shops are. And so I started this anonymous Yelp account where I was like reviewing these coffee shops, and that got into me reviewing coffee on my own, and it just steamrolled from there. And came to realize that people can't digitally download a cup of coffee yet, so let's start a coffee company.
Could you imagine like a 3D printer? That'd be so weird, wouldn't it?
Hey man, never say never. You never. Nothing is I guess, everything has a weakness. Everything is susceptible to some sort of a problem. I mean, one of the problems that we could face in the coffee industry could be global warming, climate change. I was just visiting plantations in Mexico where they're experiencing some difficulties in the harvest this past year due to climate change, which means that price is going to go up. And unfortunately, they might have to raise the price, and the quality might not even be quite as good as it was the year before, which really sucks. So now it's more expensive and not quite as good. And so everything has its challenges, but
yeah,
coffee is certainly an easier sell than music, unfortunately,
Is it available in the UK?
What's that?
Is it available in the UK?
It will be soon. We just worked out a distribution deal. We do ship to the UK, but everybody always screams about the shipping rates. That's not us. We only charge what USPS or UPS charges. We don't make any profit off of that. But we will have UK distribution very, very soon.
Amazing.
Yeah, the ink's dried, so they're setting up the shop right now. I'd say probably next 2 months, I hope.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, awesome. So how does it work? Is it like you're buying straight from the coffee plants, or is it?
When I can.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how to word this. I don't know coffee very well.
Sure. Yeah. So it's hard to know what question to ask when you don't know the process, right?
No.
So basically, we work with a green coffee distributor. When coffee is in its purest form, it's actually more like a cherry. It's actually a fruit, and so it's in this red cherry. It gets picked, and then it gets processed. And what the process is removing the skin, the mucilage, all that stuff, and you're left with the stone, which is the green coffee bean. So the green coffee beans are then shipped all over the world, and I meet with the distributor. He tells me what his offerings are, and then we take it to a roaster, and we start to do sample roastings to decide if like a light, medium, or dark roast is going to work with that coffee in particular. And then we start roasting and putting it into bags, and out the door it goes. That's the simple version.
I imagine those first like original sampler sessions, you must be caffeined off your tits. Awake for a week.
The first time I went and met with people, I met with 2 different roasters in one day. And dude, I swear I was hallucinating. We went to go get gas, and I pulled up to the gas station, and they do this thing here where some places they have to pump it for you. And what they do is when you give them your credit card, they ask for your zip code to verify that it's the right code. Dude, I was so high from caffeine that the guy comes around and he's like, okay, what's your zip code? I don't know. And then my partners that were with me, we all just started laughing so hard that I'm just like, just give me my card back. I'm just going to another gas station. I'm leaving. I'm sorry.
That is incredible. I love that I threw that joke out there and it ended up giving me like the best story ever. That's amazing. That's amazing. But this has been so cool for me. Like I've got so many fucking memories of you from like when I was like 16. Like I remember seeing a video of you playing with a Jack Skellington doll in a phone booth in London, like back in the day. You know, back seeing you live and seeing you naked on stage with Ben drumming on your arse cheeks and shit like it. And like I said at the start of the show with Pepto-Bismol, I love his face. You know, honestly, this means so much for me for you coming on and doing this for us. It's so cool.
Of course, you know, it was the best time of my life too. So, you know, hopefully the book that I'm working on, I have a very clear vision of it, of what I want it to do. And what I want it to do is I want, and like you said, it's like the whole thing went away really quickly. And I want people to get that book and it kind of verify to them that moment in time was real. It did exist. And everything that you thought that band was about and everything that you thought we did was not only true, but probably even more so. And it meant as much to us as hopefully it did to the fans and to everybody else. Because like I said, you know, we didn't go into that thinking that the thing was going to take off. That's the whole, I mean, the other bands hated us. I mean, there was so much for us. You know, I'll tell you why, because I think that we weren't a nu metal band, and we were billed with a lot of nu metal bands because of Joey and I's resumes. And if you're a band like, let's just use the Deftones, for example, and you're on your 3rd or 4th record, you're kind of in a routine, right? Mm-hmm. And you're like, right, okay, we can just put our records out, we can do our thing, and we're the cool kids. And now all of a sudden there's a new cool kid and the music's totally different. And visually it's a whole different thing. Well, you're seen as threatening, you know? And so I think a lot of the bands that Joey and I were, you know, kind of around, and the bands that we were touring with were like, well, hold on a second, now all the kids are lining up to buy their t-shirt. They're not buying our t-shirt now. What does that mean about us? So yeah, it was an awesome time, but I mean, it was, there was nothing like us then, you know, that's for sure.
Yeah. I find that strange though, in the sense that, you know, it's not your fault that you happen to just blow up and be this absolutely, you know, massive band all of a sudden. And they're obviously feeling threatened by you. It's like, well, we're here. We didn't realize we're going to be here, but we are. So deal with it.
Well, I mean, like Papa Roach were great to us. They were super, super cool. Nothing but love for those guys, man. They were great. And you're right. They were a bit more like cool. And to their credit, I mean, God, talk about a band that has just kept going and never stops and is just so consistent. I remember I saw them, they were just kind of off my radar for a couple of years, and I saw them at a festival a couple of years ago, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll go watch their set. I wonder how they'll do. Dude, that is not a band that you want to go on after, because they've just continued to put like these. Obviously, they haven't had anything as big as Last Resort. Excuse me. But they've still had a lot of big songs.
Yeah.
When you have a catalog as rich as theirs and as thick as theirs and as consistent as theirs, you could just pick bangers out and do like they can just do a 40-minute set of nothing but bangers, and poof, They don't leave much meat on the bone, you know?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, you know,
Right.
lots of Papa Roach.
Tom, have you got any more questions before we wrap this up?
One more. As Acey, man, did you ever think that life would go the way it has? Did you ever think you'd be where you are today?
No, never at all. You know, when I was pretty ambitious when I started playing music. Like I thought, all right, I want to be at least as big as. I was always kind of paying attention to the business side of things. And I was always like, if I can at least get to the position of one of these bands that puts out like 1 or 2 records and then goes away, because that unfortunately is what happens sometimes. And if I could just tour the world once or once, I'd be all right with that. You know what I mean? And to still be here doing it. And today's my my 23rd anniversary of being sober. So I've been sober this whole time.
Massive congratulations.
Yes, massive.
Yeah,
I meant to
well
say
done.
that at the start. Massive congratulations on that.
Thank you. And I never, you know, I thought I would have made more money, but all right, you know, that's okay.
No, that's awesome. But before we get out of here, we like to play a little game of our guests done where it's nothing too tedious. We just call it the quick fire round. We just fire some questions at you and you have to answer them as quick as you possibly can. Simple as that.
You got it.
Question number 1. Favorite chocolate or candy?
Nutella.
Oh, good answer. Good answer. Favorite cartoon when you were growing up?
Scooby-Doo.
Great answer again. Favorite pizza topping?
Pepperoni.
Oh, look at you go.
First concert you ever went to?
Iron Maiden and Twisted Sister.
Oh,
Beautiful.
advice you would give to a younger version of yourself?
Wow. Advice I would give to a younger version of myself. Hang in there, it gets better. Because being young sucks. Sometimes.
And last but not least,
sometimes, but
and last but not least, who would play you in the movie of your life?
well, are we talking about like? I mean, obviously, I'd want like Johnny Depp to play me, but that's a bit ambitious. I would probably say, you know, I get Kevin Bacon sometimes. I get David Spade sometimes. So maybe maybe one of those guys would be available. It'd probably have to be somebody who's cheap, I'd imagine. Yeah.
We'll just go with Depp. Why not? Shoot for the stars.
Somebody who has not worked for a long time. I got to ask my friend who's an expert. We'd have to ask Wednesday, because it'd have to be somebody who just does like B and C movies, you know?
Yeah, he's definitely the man to ask about that.
Yeah.
But Acey, this has been amazing, man. Like I said, I massively appreciate you doing this for us.
Of course.
And
Of course.
yeah,
Thank
again,
you,
sorry about the mix-up earlier at the time.
Oh no, don't worry about it. I as soon as you said it, I was like, yeah, of course, you know. So all good.
Acey, man, appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for taking your time out to come
And,
sit with
and
us.
let me know where it's posted and when it's posted, so that I can repost and reshare and all that jazz.
Massively appreciate it.
Couple of weeks on Wednesday. It's normally every Wednesday we release the show, so I think it's in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, guys. Best
Acey,
of luck.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Thank you very much, my friend.
Have a great day.
You too, buddy.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.